everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Trav in the Bush, a bird photographer from British Columbia, Canada. And during the winter holidays, I was visiting some family and I had the opportunity to photograph some birds in the snow, which, living on Vancouver Island here in Canada, I almost never get to do. Here we get snow like maybe once or twice a year. Maybe. And this year we haven't had any. So I don't very often get to shoot in the snow, and I'm doing a little weather series right now, and I actually just posted last week how to shoot birds in overcast lighting, and I'll put the little link up here in case you want to check that out. But like I said, during the holidays I had an actual opportunity to shoot birds in the snow, and I thought, oh, this would be a great idea. I'll go out and get lots of nice shots of birds in the snow and I'll be able to make a great tip video for you folks. The only issue was that I didn't really think of is if you don't have a whole lot of experience doing the thing that you're trying to teach, it's probably not going to go over very well. That's exactly what happened. I went out to shoot birds in the snow and came home with some pretty bad shots that I am not a fan of. I just thought to myself, well, I still really want to make this video and make it a part of it. Someday, maybe later in the future, I'll remake this video, but I still wanted to do something. I still wanted to have this as part of the little series. So I thought, well, what did I do wrong? Why don't I like these shots? And how could I fix them if I don't like them? So that's what I got for you here today. I got 3 tips or 3 mistakes and how to fix them for shooting birds in the snow. Mistake number 1 is boring snowy backgrounds. Snowy backgrounds can be super flat and boring. When everything is just white, it can make your photo feel really lifeless. And there's 2 ways to fix this. One is in the field, try and find a nice background instead of having just the flat white boringness of the snow. And number 2 is in your editing, and that's what I'm going to teach you here today. When you're editing one of these kind of flat, lifeless, snowy background photos, what you can do is you can edit high key and high contrast. High key editing is when you intentionally brighten your photo, making the whites really pop. It creates a clean, soft, minimalist look that works really well with snowy scenes. It's almost like leaning into the snow's brightness instead of fighting it. To get this effect, you're going to want to increase your exposure and your highlights in whatever editing software you use. And you're also going to want to push the whites up just enough so that way it still looks clean and you're not losing too much detail. Now you want to pair this with high contrast editing. High contrast means that you're making the light parts of your photo brighter and the dark parts darker. This helps your bird stand out against the background. And whatever editing software you use, I use Lightroom Classic, you'll want to highlight the subject and then use the contrast slider or adjust the whites and the blacks and the shadows individually to get more control. And you'll kind of want to do the opposite of what a lot of normal people do when they edit, and you'll actually want to decrease the shadows and you're going to want to increase the highlights, and this will really make it pop. Or increase the whites and decrease the blacks. So here's an example. This is of a shot that I got of a Clark's Nutcracker, and here's what it looks like without doing the high contrast and high key editing. It looks very dull and flat and boring, right? But now when I do high contrast and high key editing, now this is what it looks like. And these are the 2 side by side. See how it really just transforms the image, and you can actually create something out of nothing essentially. And actually, if you look at this bird, it's a Clark's Nutcracker, it's pretty boring itself, especially in a white snowy scene where the bird is gray, black, and white, and now our scene is snow, so it's white, and it kind of doesn't mesh right? The bird kind of blends into the background. And that moves into mistake number 2, and that's choosing birds that blend into the snowy scene. Snow is obviously white, and if you're photographing birds that are white, black, gray, they blend right in with the snow, and there's no real pop. The subject doesn't really stand out. And like I just showed you folks, that high contrast and high key can help make the bird stand out. But if you're just going for just a nice subject shot, these kind of dull colors don't really mesh well with the snow, because it all just, the background and the subject just kind of all mesh together, and it doesn't really draw in the viewer's eye. It doesn't grab attention. So to fix this problem, it's kind of simple. You want to focus on birds that have more color. Think about cardinals or Steller's jays or even blue jays. The color of those birds naturally pop against the snow, giving your photos more visual interest. Now, I'm not completely saying that photographing dull-colored birds in the snow doesn't work. It certainly can, but you're going to have to do other things like look for a nice background. Actually, my favorite photo of that day was of was of the same bird, a Clark's nutcracker, but look at the background. The background looked way better, the bird stands out, it's doing something dynamic like flying, so it's telling a better story. It's not just a dull, plain subject against the white background. So if your backgrounds aren't great, definitely try and shoot a more colorful bird if you can, but if that's not available, try and change the color of your background. And mistake number 3 is one that I made this day and I felt like such a rookie doing it, and that is shooting with a wider area of autofocus. When you're shooting birds in the snow, you want to be using either single point autofocus or even manual focus. Now the main reason for this is because as you have snow falling through the scene, your autofocus is going to be going crazy, especially if you have a wider field of view like a wide area autofocus, because the autofocus system and whatever camera you're using isn't going to know if it's picking up the bird or if it needs to pick up the snow, and it's going to be going in and out and in and out and in and out, and that's what I ended up doing a bunch. Such a rookie mistake. So using single point autofocus will help a lot, especially if you just narrow in on the eye and lock onto the bird, or even using manual focus, manually adjusting with your lens, locking on and then firing. This will prevent you from getting this constant battle with your autofocus system. I got a bunch of examples of shots where my autofocus system was constantly going in and out and in and out. It'd be focused on, focused off. Really just use single point or shoot in manual focus. Well folks, those are the 3 big mistakes that I made when I was out trying to shoot birds in the snow. What mistakes have you made shooting birds in the snow? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't grabbed it already, I got a free bird photography cheat sheet. Link is down there in the description below. Like, subscribe, and all that other stuff. And I'll see you next time.